Have you ever wondered what happens to an office chair, a roll of carpet, or even a piece of wallboard at the end of its life? Well, for the companies that make them, that's not just some random thought. It's actually a critical business metric. And believe me, investors are watching it like a hawk. Today, we're going to break down exactly how they measure it, and more importantly, why it matters so much. So, here's our game plan. We'll start with the huge challenge of product waste. Then, I'll introduce you to the framework that's bringing some order to the chaos, the SASB standards. We'll get right into the nitty-gritty of how to calculate the key numbers, and we'll talk about what actually gets to be called recycled. Then, we'll tie it all together and see why one single metric can be a total game changer. All right, let's start with the scale of the problem, because it's big. The building and furnishings industry produces an absolute mountain of stuff. And figuring out what happens to all of it when it's no longer needed, that's become a massive concern for everyone, especially for investors who are trying to figure out where the long-term risks are hiding. So really, what does happen to it? Does it just get tossed in a landfill, burned, or is there a better path forward? For any modern company, saying, we don't know, just doesn't cut it anymore. They need a rock-solid, verifiable way to report on this, not just to us as customers, but to the people holding the purse strings.
This is where a standardized framework is absolutely essential. So let's bring in the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, or SASB for short. Think of their standards as a universal translator for sustainability. They create a common language so companies can report on this stuff in a way that's clear, consistent, and actually useful for making decisions.
And here's why these standards have so much clout. They're part of the IFRS Foundation. That's the same organization that sets the global rules for financial accounting. Now, this is a huge deal. It means sustainability data is being treated with the same seriousness as financial data. It gives investors the confidence they need to actually put their money behind it. Okay, so for the building products and furnishings industry, SASB zooms in on 4 main topics. But for this explainer, we are going to dive deep into just one: product lifecycle environmental impacts. This is really just a fancy way of asking, hey, what happens to your products when people are done with them? It's all about measuring a company's real role in the circular economy. So let's roll up our sleeves and get practical. SASB provides a very specific metric for this. We're talking hard numbers, not just vague promises. We're going to walk through the exact formula that tells a company and its investors exactly what percentage of its old products are being saved from the scrap heap and given a new life. Now, before we calculate anything, we have to be on the same page about what we're measuring. The standard calls it end-of-life material recovered. It sounds technical, but it's really simple. It's any material that was saved from heading to the landfill or an incinerator. Basically, it's all the stuff that's been collected to be used again. Once you've got that down, the calculation is surprisingly simple. At its heart, it's just a simple 2-step process. First, you weigh everything that you've collected back, all of it. Second, you figure out how much of that pile of stuff can actually be recycled or remanufactured into something new. Let's run through a quick example to see it in action. Okay, so let's imagine a company has a take-back program, and over 1 year, they collect 1,000 metric tons of old products. That number, 1,000 tons, is step 1. That's the total weight of all the material they recovered. Easy enough, right? But of course, in the real world, not everything you collect is going to be usable. After sorting through it all and taking out any contaminated or broken parts, the company is left with 850 metric tons that can actually be sent off for recycling. And that's our step 2. Now for the simple math. You take the 850 tons that were recycled, divide it by the 1,000 total tons recovered, and boom, 85%. This is the exact number the company reports. It's a clean, clear metric, but, and this is a really important but, the whole thing hinges on what you're allowed to call recycled. You see, that 85% number is only as trustworthy as the rules behind it, and the SASB standard is incredibly specific right here, mainly to prevent greenwashing. It's all about making sure that when one company reports a number, it means the exact same thing as when another company reports it. So the standard is really strict. What's in? Materials that are truly recycled, remanufactured, or reused. What's out? Well, obviously anything sent to a landfill. But here is the critical detail. Anything that is burned for energy recovery is also excluded. Under these rules, getting energy from waste is not the same as recycling material back into the economy. And you don't have to take my word for it, the standard's own language makes this crystal clear. It defines recycling as turning waste materials into a final product or a component. The focus is all about creating new material value, not just getting a quick energy boost. That precision is what gives this whole metric its teeth.
So we've covered the what and the how, but that brings us to the most important question of all. So what? Why go through all this trouble just for one number? Well, it turns out that single number can have a massive ripple effect across the entire business. For investors, it's the clear, comparable data they've been begging for to weigh risks and opportunities. For the company itself, it lowers the risk of getting hit with new regulations or taking a hit to their reputation. For customers, it helps build a really authentic brand story. And internally, it drives innovation, pushing teams to design better products from the get-go, and hey, it can even lead to some serious cost savings.
So you see, just calculating the number is only the beginning. The real value is in the tough questions it forces a company to ask. Questions like, are we designing our products so they can be easily taken apart? Can we build better take-back programs? Can we create whole new revenue streams from what we used to call waste? That number isn't the finish line. It's the starting gun for a much bigger race toward building a truly circular and way more valuable business.